Hi, thank you for joining SFAVolleyBlog. My name is Margaret Dean, and now joining us, Senior Middle Blocker Makenzee Hanna.
That was the guest intro of the year by Margaret Dean, and that was Anaya Williams there in the background. For always shenanigans in the gym here. Okay, so yeah, Mac, shed the backpack there. Okay, so 4 seniors this year, and we get to talk to 2 of them this week. We get both Macs, Makenzee Hanna and Mackenzie Brewer will join us tomorrow. So real pleased to have Makenzee Hanna, as introduced, second team All-Southland Conference last year, and by virtue of that, first team all preseason this year. Mac, thanks for willing to chat.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Y'all had a great practice. Let me ask you about your breakout last year in 2016. What do you think you did differently last year? Because all the numbers just went through the roof from your sophomore season to your junior season.
Honestly, I worked really hard that spring. I knew I had to come in and I had to become a middle blocker and become a lot more efficient. And I became an upperclassman, and that comes with a lot more responsibility. And so I feel like I accepted the challenge really well and just put in the work, and it showed in the fall.
You talked to me about before that, you'd played all across the front when you were younger too, but before last year began, we had Justice Walker graduate and then Abby McIntyre leave. And so the club decided that was the time when they were going to shift you to middle blocker. Where in all of that did it kind of hit you? That's where I'm probably going to play my junior season.
We have our exit meetings every fall, and that's when Coach Humphreys really sat me down and she was like, Makenzee, what big part of our offense is leaving? And at first I didn't even get it. Like, I was like, oh, Shannon? Like, Shannon's a setter. And she was like, no, Justice. I was like, oh, you want me to play middle? And so that's when it really clicked. And, like, she said, you are going to have to get in better shape. Like, you are going to have to learn new footwork. Like, it's completely different than right side. And I hadn't played middle in 2 years since high school. And when I got it, I think I got it a lot faster than I thought I would. And I started connecting with Ann and Brew really quickly. And just throughout the spring, I had a pretty good spring my sophomore year. And just in preseason in the fall, like, I made all tournament teams, and I was just clicking with everybody. And I don't know, it just, if the shoe fits, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of read my mind. That was the next thing I was going to say, is that it happened really fast in the fall season because you were all tournament over at Mississippi State and then 2 weeks later at Rice. So there wasn't a whole lot. It looked like you'd been playing that position for a really long time. So was that after those 2 tournaments and before we got to conference play, were you already thinking at that time, wow, I've made this transition. I can play this position at a high level, in this league?
Yeah, it definitely boosted my confidence, and definitely having, like, teammates around me, like, reassuring that, like, I am a good player, and their support and them being good as well. Like, I'm only as good as people I surround me with, and so that just makes me a more solid middle blocker. So,
there's a lot. We have 5 freshmen, and you can remember what that was like to do what they're doing, going through 2-a-days. But I also think sometimes it's rough on the sophomores as well because they've played 1 year and it's like, wow, I have to gear up and do this again. Was there at any point maybe between your freshman year or a sophomore year, during that sophomore year, where you said to yourself, all right, well, I started 17 games as a freshman but only 5 as a sophomore. I hit over 200 as a freshman, but I hit under 100 as a sophomore. Were there any sort of those honest moments that were kind of discouraging that you kind of had to pull yourself out of?
Definitely. Hitting under 100 was, like, absolutely insane to me because I had a really good freshman year, and I came in and I was very, very productive, and I was starting and coming in as a sophomore year, like, I did really bad, and I was just really discouraged. And honestly, like, I was like, Makenzee, I told myself, just come in, take it day by day, and just, even if you don't get better, like, just stay constant. Like, work on your consistency and work on trying to get where you want to be, because it's not going to happen overnight. And Debbie told me, she was like, everybody has ruts, but you have someone behind you who can come in and do the job for you. And I feel like that's really reassuring. So I just, even though I'm in a rut, I try to like have a positive attitude and control what I can control other than like bringing everybody down because I'm not producing.
And then with such a productive year last year, I think seeing that total transition's got to help you for how you can help a player maybe like Anaya. I mean, she's coming into, her second year, same bit. So if she has, struggle bus moments, have you kind of already thought about how, as a senior, you can kind of be a mentor to somebody who probably good chance will play opposite you in that position?
Yeah, me and Anaya have definitely developed a relationship, especially over this past summer. Me and Anaya have gotten incredibly close. I'm probably closer with her than I am most people on the team. Like, she's kind of become my person, I've kind of become hers. We feed off each other in practice. Like, if one of us is having a bad day, she knows she can come to me like, hey Matt, like, I am doing absolutely horrible. I need you to tell me what I'm doing wrong, or I need you to lift me up. And I know I can do the same for her. And Anaya has definitely grown mentally. That mental part of the game when you get to college becomes absolutely insane. Like, it goes to another level. And she has definitely grown, and she has a lot more room to grow. Everybody does when they're that young. But definitely, me and her definitely have gotten closer. And you can tell, like, when we play, like, if you watch us, like, we'll look at each other, we'll like feed off each other, give each other feedback. So I definitely depend on her even as a senior, and I know she depends on me too. So it's good having that.
That's really awesome. That was really what I wanted to get into next, was that I thought she was just such an important piece for us this year. A very big important piece for us. Well, let me take you kind of back before we go forward. One thing I learned about you last year that I don't think many people that watch us know is they may see on your bio that you're from DeSoto and that you went to Grace Preparatory Academy, but they may not have put those two things together. Grace Prep is in South Arlington, and it's not really close to DeSoto. Talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, you drove, or you and your parents, or you, 25, 30 miles back and forth from where you lived to where you played and went to high school.
It was a big
Team's walking out right now and giving her all the high fives and signs stuff. But I mean, you had you had to like be really disciplined and travel and things all during your high school year.
Yeah, I mean, when I transferred there my junior and senior year because the school I was going to they were about to close down, and my mom really liked the private school atmosphere. She liked the level of education I was getting. And so I knew a girl that played there and went to school there. And so she convinced me to come on like a visit. And then I ended up going there. But the drive was definitely something that I had to get used to. Every morning I had to get up earlier, which I am not a morning person. So that was really hard. And then it was hard being on time for that 8 o'clock class, and I was late most of the times, and I got in trouble a lot for that, and that was really hard. But that drive was not fun. But the school I went to, I only went to school Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so that definitely made it a lot easier. And so Tuesday, Thursdays, like, I stayed at home and did homework and like caught up on classes and stuff, and like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like I would make that 30-mile drive to Arlington.
Yeah. I mean, the Grace Prep kind of had the college type system, right? You took classes, MWF and TR and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Before we started this, we had the posters. What was it like the first time you kind of saw your own mug on like the poster that's going to be hanging up in Kroger and Walmart and all that? I mean, every player has their own poster here in the gym to kind of be as a roster card for people that come in, but was that kind of cool to kind of see you and two of your fellow seniors? Mackenzie Brewer was on it last year, so we had the other three that hadn't been on it this year. But was that kind of a kick to see yourself on that team poster?
It's pretty cool. I walked into a frozen yogurt shop the other night, and the owner comes up to me, and he's holding the poster, and he's like, "Is this you?" I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. I'm like, because it's not something I'm used to. Like, I don't really think about it like that. I'm like, oh, cool, I'm on the poster. And then, like, people really do notice those things. Like, they recognize me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, that is me. And like he asked me to sign it, and he's like, oh well, I'm gonna hang it up and all this stuff. And I thought it was pretty cool that people pay attention and they actually recognize me. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I have at least half a dozen people a year ask me for whoever's on the poster to bring them in here and sign it and bring it to them. Which leads me to this. If you're right, people do notice. People do see that. This is a small town, so if they see you on a poster at a place where they eat, they might recognize you. I noticed in the handbook that Coach gave y'all at the beginning of the year that there's a section in there about community perception and responsibility to represent the club. And one of the lines in there says, you're a Ladyjack, 24/7. I mean, what do you have to do to remember that? When you're on campus, when you're hanging out with friends, when you're out socially, what are the things you have to kind of tell yourself, hey, there are people that might know who I am and who I represent here?
A big thing about that is the girls that D-Hump recruits most of the time, not most of the time, all of the time, she recruits a certain type of person. And she would never recruit a great volleyball player, but she knows won't be successful in this program. And so a lot of the girls that come in here, and every girl that I've played with since I've been here, have been very classy people, and they've had the good attitude, and they know what's right, what's wrong. Like when they do mess up, because everybody does mess up. I've certainly messed up since I've been here. Like they know what's wrong, and like people make mistakes. They've done it once, they don't do it again. So, and like people, like we're very, very conscious of like what we say, what we do, how we dress and stuff. So it's just a certain kind of like, I don't want to say type of person that plays here, but we all have that in common, I would say.
Yeah, and I think I've noticed that for years. I just thought it was interesting to see her write that down in that book that you guys had. One thing as we kind of wrap this up that I really just wanted to pay a compliment to you and just kind of ask you about was you're someone all 3-4 years that you've been here who's always been quick to greet people like myself. You're oftentimes the first person when I walk in on game day. Hey, Greg, how's it going? Have you always kind of been someone who's been able to notice and incorporate people that are really on the perimeter? Because, y'all are the stars, and we just try and make the outside of this happen. But I notice that stuff, and it's been real consistent with you. So it's like, is that something that you kind of are intentional about?
I try to be. I know I can only imagine like what it's like being like supporting the stars and like doing all the behind the scenes stuff, and like what if that person doesn't even acknowledge you. And I really try to like make you feel like that you are appreciated, and Charlie and all of like the ball shaggers that come and like support us, and the managers and like our assistant coaches, and even JD, our graduate assistants. So I don't ever like the people behind the scenes to feel like we don't appreciate them, because we do, because we have a great marketing team, and like we don't ever want to feel like they don't matter to us, because they really do good things.
I've appreciated that during the 4 years you've been here. Let me wrap this up with family. Talk to me about, you already mentioned your mom. Of course, your dad, I've known the whole time. He's real animated and loves to watch you play, loves to talk volleyball. But let me give you a chance to kind of wrap this up with what they've meant to you, the support they've been to you while you've played, not only here at SFA, but, all those days in DeSoto and getting back and forth to practice. So just talk about your family and kind of what they mean.
Well, my mom works a lot, and she is very involved in work, and she was a nursing manager for a long time, so she's in charge of night shift, day shift, and so she makes it to every game she can. And I've been very good at understanding if she can't make it, like it's for a good reason. But my dad, when I was in high school, he came to every one of my practices, every one of my games. He would never miss a game. When I've been out here in college, he comes to every game away, every game at home, every game out of state. He will be in New York. He will be in Memphis. He didn't go to Florida, but he loves supporting me, and he believes in me, and both of my parents do. And my grandparents, they try to come to as many games as possible. And just like having that support system and having a really, really good relationship with my family is something that I know some people don't have, and it's something that I'm very, very blessed to have. And so I try to keep in touch with them as much as possible and call my parents every day, because I know some people are like, I know my mom was upset when I went to college, and she was like, what if you just don't talk to me anymore? And so I really try to make that effort to talk to her all the time, because she misses me and she's worried about me and stuff. So I love my family. They mean the absolute world to me.
They raised you right. Makenzee Hanna, first team, all preseason 2017 Southern Conference, out to try and repeat as regular season champions this year, and then get it done in the postseason to make an NCAA appearance in her senior year. Mac, always a delight to talk to you. Thanks for your time this afternoon.
Thanks, Greg.